Good day. Let's raise our hands if any of you have ever been to Central Asia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan. Were there any of you who loved the mountains? Ah, there's one person. That's good. At least someone can imagine what it looks like in real life. Overall, friends, today we will talk about the fact that there is game development in Central Asia, and our Studio Grimwood team is a small indie game studio that has already released several games on PC. We are now entering the mobile gaming market, and we are developing the market in Central Asia because we know very well that if this market does not develop now, then most likely someone else will come after us and develop it instead of us. Now let's first look at the global map. I think you are all familiar with these reports. Here I have specifically pointed out where Kyrgyzstan is located. It is situated right in the center of Central Asia. This country is bordered by China, Kazakhstan, and essentially it was once the heart of the Silk Road. There is generally a pretty good culture here, so if you visit this country, you will definitely be able to comfortably speak in Russian and English. Therefore, there will be no language barrier, you can be sure of that. But here we also have the external debt of Kyrgyzstan, which I have already prepared for Kyrgyzstan. So let's skip to the slide regarding why creating games in Kyrgyzstan is advantageous. Kyrgyzstan has recently started using the innovative model of our esteemed Belarusian colleagues, and we now have our own high technology park. As a result, any entrepreneur in the IT sector receives advantageous and beneficial conditions to develop IT projects in the long term and advantages in the IT sector. It doesn't matter if you are making applications, games, developing technologies, or training future IT specialists. Therefore, the guys have prepared 3 additional slides for me in the presentation about the High Technology Park. Let's see what the High Technology Park currently offers and the services currently available. The first is the co-working space where people can hold meetings and collaborate. Therefore, if any of your companies want to visit Kyrgyzstan, the High Technology Park will be happy to provide you with a venue for both meetings and negotiations. The next fact is why there is still an option in the Kyrgyz Republic. Because Kyrgyzstan can become an IT hub of Central Asia, and this is very convenient because we want to unite the CIS countries into one big family, allowing for integration and labor migration, which will enable us to develop not only the IT industry but also game development. So in Kyrgyzstan, electricity prices are very favorable because the country has its own hydroelectric power plants, and therefore there are no issues with electricity. Additionally, there is high-speed free internet. Approximately 600,000 people are using it right now, as I stand here before you. And accordingly, we currently have a visa-free regime for more than 60 countries, including for citizens of Ukraine. Additionally, this leads to the qualitative development of the workforce. We are currently advocating for the idea of introducing game dev education in Kyrgyzstan because, in fact, there are currently talented individuals, and we want to gradually prepare the existing IT sector so that these individuals can work in the game dev market. We have the American Embassy, which is currently actively supporting these initiatives. And basically, here is a quote from the United States Ambassador, who said that Kyrgyzstan could become a hub for IT sector firms. Additionally, American companies are now entering the Central Asia market and beginning to collaborate with local Kyrgyzstan companies. About Kyrgyz companies. Now, the most interesting part. So, we already know that there is a high technology park, there is Kyrgyzstan, there are tax benefits, and we know which studios we have. Here, actually, the statistics are a bit sad. I will probably come closer and show that here we count this number of studios and see that currently, on average, we have no more than 60 specialists working in game development. This is a poor indicator for now, and we will work on improving it. Currently, we primarily use the Unity engine because it has a low entry threshold. However, there are already initial, let's say, signals for Unreal as we are starting to develop this engine in the country. This is so that not only game studios, but also companies involved in production and video production can integrate with this engine. And for this, we are currently working actively to start educational programs together with the folks from Epic. Additionally, there is the market in Kazakhstan where there are slightly more studios and slightly more games that have been released. For example, in Kyrgyzstan, we see that we have released games on platforms like APC Xbox, APC Xbox, APC Xbox, APC Xbox PC, Xbox, and mobile devices. And so far, only our studio can boast about this. In Kazakhstan, however, there are already many more studios that have released PC games, which are available on Steam, and a lot of people are releasing mobile games that are also coming out now. We see that in Kazakhstan, studios are generally developing, and we notice that Unreal Engine is somewhat more popular here than in Kyrgyzstan. So we are going to tweak this a little bit now. I think that in a couple of years, the slide will be much more comprehensive because the market is still developing. So in principle, this is still an empty niche, and we see that both in Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, PC game production and mobile games are developing evenly. But, of course, mobile games are currently dominating because they are easier to develop. And here you might wonder, why are so few games being developed in Central Asia? We have just seen that overall, out of all these 20 studios you have seen, there are 5 games that are not embarrassing to show to the market. And here the question arises, why is this happening? We see 3 main problems in the market. The first issue is the lack of competent investors. For all the game studios I showed you, our total annual investment volume does not exceed $500,000. So there are investors, and they kind of want to invest. Most investors are in the phase of short-term investments, meaning it's more profitable to invest in something like re-export and get quicker returns than to invest in the gaming industry where there are risks and competent personnel are needed, as well as a competent investor who can understand all the nuances of game production and how these games pay off. The next issue is the shortage of personnel. It exists and we do not hide it. On the contrary, we believe that we can currently increase the number of specialists in game development in Central Asia, where we have on average less than 1,000 specialists involved. According to our estimates, there are about 870 specialists involved in game development, against 20,000 IT specialists who are engaged in application development or work on outsourcing projects with other countries. That is, if we take pure game development, there are 860 specialists currently on the market, and accordingly, weak IT education. It exists, it is conservative, it is dying out, and therefore in our case, we are now planning to implement a new education system where people can work with mentors and develop. Accordingly, Green Boot team is currently addressing the stated issues in Central Asia. First, we annually hold the only game development exhibition and conference in Central Asia, the Central Asia Game Show. We are gathering companies from the CIS region there, and the USA this year, our experience in 2020 will be 0. Accordingly, we are bringing together communities of people who develop games, which allows us to understand how many specialists there are, what problems these specialists face, and to involve international companies to collaboratively solve these issues. We are also developing a project called Greenwood Edge Laboratory. This means that if you are an aspiring IT specialist, no programming, but would like to try working in a team, you can come, take an initial test, and receive free accommodation and technical support. Create game prototypes. If you have a good project and it really plays well and looks good, and we can see that some skill has been invested in it, we give the project the green light and provide another 6 months for the development of this startup. After that, the company can move on. Either open your own enterprise and develop games in your free time, or join our company Grimwood team, where we will also be producing this project. In other words, Grimwood Tech Laboratory is both an educational platform and an opportunity for startups, allowing young people to learn how to work together as a team. Because the market in Central Asia still has a very serious problem, solo developers, unfortunately. So there is a person who has learned programming, knows the basics, and is proficient in a foreign language. Essentially, it is very easy and comfortable for them to find a job in any Western company where their CV is considered, and they can independently work with other teams. And that's why we are creating this opportunity for the guys to learn to work together on a single project. Live communication is very important when you have a project manager, a designer, programmers, those guys who handle animation, and the magic that allows us to create games. At the Central Asia Game Show, you saw that we have 70 specialists in Kyrgyzstan who are developing games. Therefore, we couldn't make this event purely B2B. We also included B2C elements, which allowed us to gather 2,000 guests. This year, we had 5,000 guests, and we will gather even more next year. Plus, this is a conference for those guys who develop games, where we bring in renowned companies and competent speakers. And the guys have the opportunity to talk to specialists who can definitely help, who can, again, somehow assist in various ways. A lot of publishers come to us, look at mobile games, and check out the developments of budding indie studios. And it's interesting, it works. This is currently the only exhibition of games and gaming devices and a gaming conference of this scale in all of Central Asia. And we hope that our event will become bigger one day. Here you can see what it looked like overall, because we really love esports. Guys, actually, in Central Asia, gaming clubs are very popular. They haven't disappeared yet. There are gaming clubs in every neighborhood, and many people love games. For example, World of Tanks is very popular there, based on our experience. And in parallel, Grimwood team is, of course, engaged in game development. And here you can see our roadmap. We have released a game, our first one, World of One. We are very pleased. Today at the booth, many people came up and said, "We remember when you first presented this game." And yes, our first experience is entering the mobile gaming market. We are currently using our art, our beautiful drawings are being incorporated into this game, and so far people are enjoying it. We are actively working on it right now, and we are also working on a new project that we want to develop throughout Central Asia. We want to transform old tales, ethnic stories, and folklore, which have been passed down orally, into modern digital games that will be distributed under a specific license and primarily aimed at a children's audience. In other words, these games will allow old tales not to die out. One of the main humanitarian goals in Central Asia right now is, let's say, to actually develop those tales and the content that exists there. In Ukraine, there's an excellent game called Cossacks. Everyone plays it and everyone knows all the intricacies of the martial arts. In Belarus, there is a game called World of Tanks. Everyone knows about the tanks, everyone knows about the details. And we hope that someday in Kyrgyzstan, there will be a game based on the content and lore of Central Asia. For example, a game called Nomads, which would have a vast amount of data, lore, information, and epics, from which a good and, most importantly, worthy product can be created. And we are striving towards this. And our next project after World of Wano is the game Dream Cloud. We plan to release it in 2020 to 2021. We are actively working with it. In the first year, we are actively working with it. Basically, we have a small team working on the games, and in order for us to comfortably develop these games within Central Asia, we need to develop the community. Therefore, our main goal is to establish international relations and foster collaboration. That is, if you want to participate in Central Asia, we are indeed open for you. That is, you can reach out at any time regarding Central Asia, add me on Facebook, ask any questions you are interested in, and anything that might interest you about the High Technology Park, the studios that exist, the personnel, the possibility of integration, or the opportunity to open your own office in Kyrgyzstan, you are welcome.